Hey, what is going on there YouTube? This is the Gaming Guy, and today I'm going to be bringing you to a video where we're going to summarise this fall season. Well, not fall season, but this spring-summer season. From what I've seen, a lot of the thoughts and reviews of the season as a whole haven't been the best. So today we're going to go through, highlight the best weeks, the best items, and then just have an overall opinion of the season. And as always, if you'd like to comment down below what you think of this season, because I know that some people have highlights for it and say that it's a good season. Others will say that it was just a terrible season. But without further ado, let's get straight into this. If you'd like to join the Discord or see any social media or anything, it will all be in the description. So yeah, let's get into this. So the best way that I can summarize this season is basically by saying, like, it was like there really isn't any strong word that comes to mind for this. It wasn't a great season, it wasn't a horrific season, but it was by no means like an average or even good season. From my personal opinion, I would just say that this season is just going to go like unknown and unseen, to be honest. If I was taking it from the past 4 seasons, including this one, going from like fall winter 17, spring summer 18, fall winter 18, then spring summer 19, I would say this ranks at the bottom out of all of them. Normally the fall winter seasons are better. Last year the exact same thing happened, where the spring summer season people were happy with, but the fall winter season just completely trumped on it. And yeah, people then said that the spring summer was basically just a bad season. I didn't really agree with that one, but this time I'm sort of on the edge of agreeing. They had a ton of collaborations, which, don't get me wrong, are really great, and it's great to see a load of collaborations with companies. But the only thing is that a lot of things just had no flair to them. There wasn't really anything special that set some pieces apart from other things and made them stand out as highlights. So personally, I think the best way to go about this is to highlight 3 to 5 items per section that really give that section a boost and make it seem like a good sort of outcome as an overall for this season. Now obviously these are my personal views, so if you'd like to pick 3 or 4 or 5 items from each section that you think highlights the season, then drop them down below. But let's kick things off with jackets, because it's the easiest way to go about it. Now there are a lot more items that I could have picked for this. I could have gone to like 10 items per section, but I'm going to stick with about 5 or 3 to 4 or 5, however many, to be honest. If there aren't like up to 5 items that I actually like, then I won't include that many. And if there are, then obviously I'll go up to that amount. So we're going to kick things off with the pinstripe varsity jacket. Now personally, I was quite a big fan of this piece. However, since I've already purchased some varsities in prior seasons, and I've recently obviously found the Duke varsity, I didn't really feel the need to get another one. But personally, I think this piece is amazing. Definitely in the tan or the blue colorway. It's just a great piece, and it will definitely start off the list for me. Okay, the next item is hopefully an obvious one for people. It's going to be the Grand Prix Parker. I think that this was definitely a highlight for the jackets section this season. It was a piece people were hyped for, and they went for in the end, and I think that it was a good piece overall. Next up is one that I think if it was in the full winter season, it would have had a lot more hype than it did, even though it already had a lot of hype. But yeah, I think if it released in full winter, people would have just gone like crazy for it, and that is the Wolf Fleece jacket. It already had a really decent sellout time, but I just think it would have gone even higher if it was in full winter. Next are 2 pieces that people may or may not agree on, and they're going to be the Patchwork Harrington jacket and the ARC logo Denali fleece jacket. The Harrington jacket gained some traction from Instagram posts and pictures leaking it, and I think it just looked cool overall, and I'm a fan of patchwork pieces. And then the Denali fleece jacket, I think, was just a good release from North Face, and personally I just liked the piece. It hasn't really gone crazy in the numbers of resale, which is good because obviously it's summertime, so it'd be a good time for people to pick it up. But yeah, I just think it was a good piece. A couple of pieces that could be thrown in are like the Reaper work jacket, maybe some of the Stone Island pieces, or the S logo track jacket. But apart from that, I think that highlights jackets. Next, we're going to move on to shirts, which I think will be a lot quicker to go through than the others, because shirts are a bit of a hit and miss. Some of them go down really well, others don't, and in general, it's not really an area that is massively highlighted. So we're going to kick things off with the Persistence of Memory silk short sleeve shirt. I just think this is a really nice piece, definitely in the pink colorway. It's just a nice shirt. From there, we're going to move on to the JPG collaboration flower rayon shirt. I think that this piece was quite underrated. I think that it should have had a bit more appreciation in the end, but it is what it is at the end of the day. From there, we have the Reaper rayon shirt, which again I think is a good highlight for the shirts section. We then have the Cherry rayon shirt, which overall I think the cherry pieces that released this season were a big hit and people did appreciate them and really like them. But for some reason, some of them just got a lot of dislikes and a lot of hate in the end. But I definitely think that they were like a missed out hidden gem sort of piece. And the last item from the shirts is going to be the Bella Lugosi rayon short sleeve shirt. I think this is just a really nice piece, and I think Boone said the same sort of thing. It's just a piece that people really did just sleep on. Okay, now to move on to tops slash sweaters. There are going to be some pieces that people probably not agree on this section, but to be honest, I think they are the best highlights for this section. Now, one piece that I did pick up that I haven't included because I don't think it's a massive highlight for people is the Gilbert and George piece, the long sleeve that I picked up. I don't think it's a massive highlight for people, so I haven't included it. Instead, the first item is going to be the red rum baseball jersey. I'm a fan of baseball jerseys, and I think this one went down quite well. It sort of also went under the radar, and yeah, it is just going to appear on this list. From there, we're going to move on to the Cloud Arc tee. I was a massive fan of this piece, but I was just disappointed by the fact that it was a tee and not like a t-shirt sort of thing. So it was a premium tee, which means the price was up, and yeah, as of that I just didn't go for it. But I think it is a nice graphic and it's a highlight from this section. We then have two collaboration pieces, first being the Castelli cycling jersey. This piece was a massive hit, and yeah, it sold out quite quickly. People went for all of the pieces from the Castelli collaboration, and this one was definitely one of them that I think comes to the top of the top slash sweaters highlight. From there, we've obviously got the Nike or Nike swoosh sweater, which definitely I think comes out as like the most liked piece from this section, which is just going to be obvious. But the only thing that I didn't really like from it is just that I believe people said that it was just like a rerun of older pieces. The whole sort of collaboration that they had featuring a lot of different pieces was basically just taken from like the 90s or 80s and just put back into fashion, and that's that. But I still think that is definitely a highlight from the top slash sweaters for this season. Lastly, we're going to have the City Arc tee, again another premium tee. Price was up, but personally I think that the graphic for it was just amazing, and I think it was just a great piece. Next, we move on to sweatshirts. Now, personally, just for two pieces that are highlights for me that aren't going to be on like the sort of top 5 or top 4, top 3, one of which is going to be the Gons embroidered map hoodie. The other is going to be the Forever Half Zip sweatshirt. I think these two pieces were great, and they're definitely a highlight from this, even if they don't make it into the sort of top list. There's also the Supreme Stone Island hoodie. I'm just not going to put it into this list, even though it probably comes to like near the top with the amount of likes it received. I just don't think it was a piece that I personally would highlight, because the effort going into it and what it is was just not great, to be honest, even though it did have some decent resale on the day. So we're going to kick things off with the patchwork tie-dye hoodie. Personally, I think most patchwork pieces are just great, and this one is another one. And yeah, it's just on that list for that reason alone. I think it's just a great piece. We're going to up the sort of price now by going onto the Swarovski box logo hoodie. An obvious reason why this is here, it's a box logo being released in spring summer. People went crazy for it and wanted it. Obviously there was the JPG tee, which isn't a box logo, but people said was a box logo at the time. And yeah, this is a definite box logo and just takes the cake, to be honest, is the way to put it. Next up for a highlight is the S logo color blocked hoodie. I definitely think this piece was a highlight from the season for the hoodie side, and the colors, even though they were quite peculiar to see at first, I think they definitely stand out, and it's just a great piece. We then have the Formula crew neck, which I know people wanted like massively, and it had pretty decent resale on the day that it came out, and within the week it was sort of still doing well. I haven't looked at it since, but it's definitely a highlight piece. To finish off, we have the classic ad t-shirt hoodie. I just think bringing back this ad, or bringing an ad and putting it on a hoodie, is just a good idea. And yeah, at the time when I'd seen it, I sort of didn't think much of it, but obviously it's more of a thing to do with like the history of Supreme more than something that's just to get into fashion. So yeah, I think that it was cool they brought an ad back, or put an ad onto a hoodie, and yeah, that's why it's a highlight. For tees, I'm going to keep it short and sweet and try not to highlight over all of them. I'm going to try and keep it more precise. So I'm going to start off with the King of New York tee. I think this is a great piece, and yeah, I do not have mine anymore obviously, but I think it is definitely a highlight, and it is one of the better tees that came out of this season. We then have the Dynamite tee, one of my favourite tees from this season for sure. I think that it's just a great piece, and yeah, that's why it's on this list. We then have the photo tee, the Buju Banton tee. A photo tee is just great to have, like, to come out in general. It's definitely a highlight for the t-shirt section. And lastly, I'm going to put the box logo tee, just because of the pure fact that it's a box logo. Now, I would have put the Persistence of Memory, the JPG, or the Reaper tee, but I didn't put any of them just because I'm just going to stick to a more condensed list. Moving on to pants, I'm only going to highlight 3, to be honest. I could highlight a lot more, and there are a lot more that probably take the sort of summary for the pants section, but personally these are the 3 that I think just represented the best, being the patchwork tie-dye sweatpant, the stripe sweatpant, or the Nike stripe sweatpant, and then the JPG floral print sweatpant. I think they're just the better ones that have come out of this. You could have things like the floral, or the North Face, or the Champion, or the Stone Island, anything like that, but I think that these 3 are just the best from the list. The same applies when it comes to the shorts. I'm going to keep it short and sweet, and yeah, we're going to kick things off with the Grand Prix belted short. Again, like the Parker, I just think this is a great piece. We then have the nylon water short in the specifically the cherry colorways, or the cherry pattern, exactly like the shirt. I think that it's a great piece, and again, a water short being released with some hyped colors. People are going to buy it, hopefully wear it, but most probably resell them. And to finish off, we're going to have the S logo short. S logo pieces are normally a hit, and this was definitely a hit. They all sold out in the end, and yeah, I think it's a highlight for the shorts section. Right, now we're going to move on to hats. We're nearly on to the last couple of sections. So I'm going to kick things off with the Grand Prix camp cap. It just matches the full theme, and I think that it just deserves to be there. We then have the Supreme Castelli cycling cap. It went quite quickly in like an overall scheme, and yeah, I think a sort of cycling theme is a good highlight from the season. Then for personal choices, there are a lot of others that did better on the side of likes, but I think the washed out camo camp cap and the overdyed beanie are the best last 2 highlights from the hats tab. For the shoes tab, I'm only going to include 2. They're both going to be Vans, and the first is going to be the JPG floral ones, the Era Pros, and then the Diamond Plate slip-on Pros are the other ones that I'm going to include. There are a couple of others out of them that you could have picked, but I think these 2 are just the best ones for an overall summary. Okay, let's move on to accessories, where we've got quite a couple more, but I definitely think that these highlight the accessories section, and probably just highlight the season personally. So, director's chair firstly, I think this is a sick piece. It's still basically around retail-ish price, maybe just above that, and for that I think it is just a great piece to pick up. We then have the porcelain Cupid figurine, which I think is definitely a big highlight. Its price went up like a massive amount after the drop, and within the last couple of months pretty much, and I think that is just a great piece that's come out of this season. We then have the Super Soaker keychain. I'm not going to go for the Water Blast, I'm going to go for the keychain, because I think that is a better piece in comparison to the Water Blaster or the Super Soaker. And yeah, it definitely deserves to be on this list. I can't go through the accessories without mentioning the Hot Wheels Fleet Flyer and 1992 BMW M3, because that is definitely a massive highlight for the accessories for this season. I personally think that it is one of the top 3 that came out of this season for accessories, maybe as an overall top 5 for all items, but yeah, I think it is a great piece. Finish off the last couple of accessories, we've got the acrylic photo frame. I think this is a great piece. It's got Supreme all over, and you can put photos in it. It's just the best of both worlds. I think this is a great way to show your photos, especially since it's magnetized, and it's a lot easier than having to undo a full frame and put everything back together. For the last 2 pieces, we've got the Fret slippers. If I pronounce that wrong, I pronounced that wrong. Slippers, cheap price overall, just a great item. We've then got the Pearl drum set. and symbols, and yeah, obviously I can't not mention this. For bags, I am not going to be mentioning any of the bags that are actually released like season to season, because they could just be in their own list by themselves. Instead, I'm just going to go through the couple that were released apart from them, and we're going to kick things off with the North Face ARC logo small duffel bag. I think this duffel bag's just a cool piece. I think this one's brandy and everything was really decent. I'll then say that the Nike or Nike shoulder bag was definitely another highlight. And then the utility pouch. The only downside to the utility pouch is the string-like pouch that came with it. If the shoulder strap was just a bit better, I think that it'd definitely be a better highlight. But yeah, it just doesn't, and I think that it just comes a bit lower just because of that. For skateboard decks, I'm only going to really highlight 3, which is going to be the airbrushed floral, the ODB, and then the Norihiro Sekitani, I believe it was, skateboard deck. The airbrushed, I'm just a massive fan of with the big Supreme spell out. The Sekitani I picked up because I thought it was cool. And the ODB, I know a lot of people were a fan of just in general, because it was just a nice commemorative sort of piece that a lot wanted to pick up. So yeah, that is going to finish off the skates. Out of all of the weeks, I'd say that maybe 6 or 7 are the main highlights, and yeah, let's just run through them. So we're going to start off with week 0. I think obviously because you have a massive amount of items releasing this week specifically, as you can see, it's a good week, but I overall think personally that a lot of the items were on my list as well for what I said were good and bad. And yeah, you obviously had the beginning tees that were released at the start of the season like normally from the lookbook. So overall, I think this was just a good week to kick things off. Next up, we're going to have the spring tees week, which is week 6. It has the photo frame, it has all of the spring tees, it has a couple of other items that I highlighted and didn't highlight, and overall I think it was just a pretty decent week. Next up, we're moving on to week 8, which has the classic ad and the Hot Wheels piece. It also has the Raiders collaboration as well as a couple of other pieces, but it doesn't include a large amount, but it is still a really decent week. Obviously, we have to follow that with week 9 with the box logos that were released, as well as the hammock and the poncho and a couple of the other pieces. You have the cherry rain shirt as well here and a couple of others in there, but yeah, overall, again, another week that highlights the season and I know a lot of people like. Next, we're going to skip all the way to week 15 where you have the slippers and the drum set and a couple more Raiders pieces releasing. Overall, I think this is a good week and it's nice and simple, nothing too complicated. And obviously, the top 4 or 5 items are the main highlight for it. Next up from there, we're jumping to week 17, where you have the Super Soaker, the Castelli pieces, and the S logo pieces releasing. Overall, you also have a couple of other pieces that dropped and people liked. But yeah, that is the main highlight. You have a lot of sort of matching pieces going, where you have the S logo, you have the bags, S logo, you have the basketball related pieces, and yeah, it's a good week, I think, personally. Lastly, we're going for week 18 for the summer tees. Yeah, there's no way that this can't make it into the list as an overall. I think the summer tees as well as the Mocha Express, it's just a great week as an overall. This is personally one of the best highlights for the season. One of the final weeks where you get a lot of tees and a lot of other pieces just thrown in together, and yeah, I think it was a good week. So this has obviously been quite a long video, but it's for the reason that I just need to summarize everything. We can now go on to the items actually for spring summer 19, and yeah, personally, I think as an overall, the season was not the greatest that we will ever see. For some people, it made them not so interested in Supreme anymore. For a lot of people, it made them not want to buy Supreme anymore. And I know for a lot of people, next season will be the sort of hit or miss as to whether they will continue to purchase Supreme or not, or whether they will just start to collect older pieces and just do that instead. Because this season was their sort of point where they're trying to resell, and they couldn't really unless you were getting something on the day and selling it on the day. Personally, I think for resale, if you had picked specific items that had some hype to them or that people really wanted or were sort of underground, I think that you could have definitely pulled a lot of profit. And I know that a lot of people did make profit anyway, just being proxies. But in general, I think, yeah, that the season definitely deserves the hate that it got for a lot of the items, because some of them just weren't the greatest, and I could definitely make a list of at least 40 plus items that are just terrible. But there's no point in doing that because the season is over, it's come and gone, and we are now going to be waiting for the full winter season. There were a lot of highlights, but personally I think that the t-shirts and the accessories were definitely the strong points for this season. Some other bits and pieces were good here and there, but as an overall, yeah, I definitely think the accessories might be the topping part to this season. But like I said at the start, comment your opinions down below. That is going to cover the video for me. And yeah, I could have mentioned some other things, maybe like the pool cue and maybe some other pieces, but personally I was just not going to do it. One piece that I think was horribly overpriced is this. Unless you're going to use it, is massively overpriced. But yeah, it got a lot of likes, so it sold in the end, and that is that. But yeah, thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed, like, be much appreciated. Other than that, I'll be releasing my sort of best of and worst of live cops tomorrow, and then I'll have a collection video on Saturday. But like I said, that's the end of it. I'll see you all next time. Peace.